So I have the opportunity to share God's word with you today, or the honor to share God's word with you today, which I'm really excited about. But I want to start with a story. So growing up, I didn't ever feel like I fitted in. You see, I came from a family that was really strict. And so we did not get to watch anything that anyone else was watching. Gummy bears was a big no-no. My Little Pony, Teenage Ninja Turtle, definitely not, okay? When Jumanji came out, the movie Jumanji was quite a huge thing when I was a kid, and everyone was so excited about it, I was not allowed to watch it. And so it made it really tough at school, because when everybody's singing the Gummy Bear song together, you're like, I don't know. I still don't know how it goes. So you kind of just pretend to know what's going on. Or where they're like, oh my gosh, did you see what happened in the movie? And you're like, yes, like the board and the game and the people. It was amazing. Like, because you don't want to show that you don't know. And it made me feel like I wasn't like everyone else. I didn't quite fit in. And then in high school, of course, you become a bit more aware of what you're wearing and how you look. And I grew up in a beach town where everyone surfed, and so everybody wore name brand clothing, Billabong or Rip Curl or whatever, and I was one of 6 children. So we did not wear name brand clothing. I mostly wore hand-me-downs from my cousins, who are a lot bigger than me. So needless to say, I always felt like I didn't have the look, I didn't have the talk, I didn't understand what was going on half the time, and so I didn't fit in with the group that I wanted to fit in with. And so when I had kids of my own, you tend to project your insecurities or issues from your childhood onto your own kids, not consciously, but subconsciously. And so I really wanted to protect my children from feeling excluded, feeling like going through the hard thing of not fitting in. And so we have always been quite intentional with our kids' friendship. Like, I like to be in control, and so I controlled their friendship group in the beginning. And so when Riley was like, oh, I like these kids, they're so cool, and everyone loves them, and I was like, rad, we will get their parents' numbers, let's phone, let's make play dates, let's organize. I'm going to make sure that you get to school and everyone loves you, and you're never going to worry about fitting in. You're going to be confident and happy. And so we went out of our way to create these friendships for her. And when that group of girls started gymnastics, she was like, I really want to do gymnastics. All my friends are doing it. And I was like, yo, that's a lot a month, but okay, we'll make, because I want her to be happy. I want her not to have to feel excluded. And when she came home and said, Mommy, people do not shop at the shops we shop at. Everybody shops at, what's it called? H&M. All my friends shop at H&M. Meanwhile, it's only like 2 of them. But I was like, okay, let's go look. Let's go find something we can afford at H&M, and let's get you to, I want her to fit in. But I missed something really important. And as we've been talking more about belonging, and I've done a lot of research into belonging for Kids Church, because it's a big part of our vision and our values for kids. And I realized there's a big difference between fitting in and belonging. Yeah. They're actually opposing each other. And so fitting in is about assessing a situation and becoming who you need to be in order to be accepted. That's right. You look, okay, what are the people at work doing? Okay, I need to wear that sort of clothing, or I need to act in this certain way, or I need to go out with everyone after work so that I can fit into this group. It's about changing who you are to become who you need to be to fit in. Where belonging is something very different. Belonging doesn't require us to change who we are. It requires us to be who we are. Because it's only when we show up with who we are and we're accepted for that we actually can have a sense of belonging, where we can feel like we belong. And so unfortunately, I feel like now, 7 years later with these friendships, I'm realizing that I actually think we were wrong. And that we've put her in these places where maybe she didn't naturally click with those girls. And so what it's actually done is the opposite, and it's actually caused more insecurity in her, and it's made her feel more like, I don't, like we've had conversations recently where she's like, I just don't feel like I fit in, I don't feel, and I was like, but this is what I was trying to protect you from. But we were pushing her to fit in as opposed to belonging. And as I'm thinking more and more about belonging, I'm realizing, but I did have a place that I belonged growing up, and it was the church. And if I think to my friendships, yes, I didn't fit in at school, and I didn't feel like I was ever good enough or on par with the others. But when I went to church, I showed up as who I was and who God made me to be, and I was accepted for who I was. And I had a really good best friend who wasn't the same age as me, so we didn't run in the same circles at school, but that's the friend I would go to on weekends. That's who I would hang out with at church. And when my life fell apart as a teen, and my whole family, like there was a trauma that we faced, that friendship is what carried me. That friendship is where I could go and have long conversations till early hours of the morning and just pour my heart out. That's the friend that would sit and pray with me when I felt like, how are we going to cope? How are we going to get forward? And that's a friend that's been by my side for so many years of my life and helped me to become more like Jesus. And in hindsight now, I'm like, that's the friendships that I want for my children. And even if it's just one, they don't have to fit in the world, because we were not made to fit in. We are not of this world. Yeah. It's okay not to fit in at work. It's okay not to fit in at school. It's okay not to fit in with the moms or the dads on the golf course. It's okay, because you're not made for this world. We are made to belong. And our belonging is found in the family of God. In Romans 12, verse 5, it says, so it is with Christ's body. We are many parts of one body, and we all belong to each other. When we become a part of God's family, we gain a family. We're not just an individual in a relationship with God. We're part of a family. And we actually belong to each other. So this is the place where we find our place that we belong, where we can show up as we are. You can come as you are. You can show up, and you can find somebody who's going to love you, and where you can love them and walk and become and build into incredible friendships and relationships. In Galatians 3, verse 28, it says, there is no longer Jew or Gentile, slave or free, male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. There's no more division. I mean, if I look around, our church is so diverse. The family of God is so diverse, and we are all one, and we get to find our belonging here in the family of God. And so we are in a series called Made to Belong, and we're looking at practices that cultivate community in a disconnected world. Because the world we live in doesn't drift towards community, it drifts towards isolation. We have a massive problem with loneliness in the world and even in the church. Here in this church, that you could be sitting here among everyone and feel alone, feel like you don't know anyone. And that's not God's heart for you. Like, there is a place you belong here, and we want to help you in this series to help you to get connected. And so last week, Jason tackled the first practice in order to build community in your life, and it was priority. We have to start by realizing how important it is and making it a priority in our lives to build community with people. And then secondly, today, I'm going to tackle chemistry. How do we build into chemistry with people in order to have flourishing friendships? And so I'm going to do a bit of chemistry first, bringing kids' church into church because it's the best way to teach. Okay, so if you take the right ingredients and you mix them together, you can get a chemical reaction, right? And so today we have a little bit of sunlight liquid and some food coloring, and I'm going to add some hydrogen peroxide. Some of you might know what's coming, especially if you've been to the science show at the Science Center in town. Okay, give that a little bit of a swirl. And then we're going to add some yeast to this. Just mix it up. And when I put the right ingredients together, and I add them, let's see what happens. There we go. Also known as elephant toothpaste. Okay, there's a whole lot of foamy goodness that comes out when I put those right ingredients together. And what I want to tell you today is that this is what God has for you in relationships. God has actually physically made us for people. And when we have a good conversation with somebody, what happens? There's a chemical reaction that happens where dopamine is released in our brains, and we have these feelings of happiness, feelings of contentment. Or when we go and have a shared experience with somebody where we really enjoy something together, like a run or activity together, we leave with this feeling of happiness and joy that bubbles out of us because we were made to experience relationship with people. And so this is what God wants for you. This is what He has for every single one of you in relationship. That when you find people that you can build chemistry with, where there can be a reaction where joy can bubble out of your life because God made us like that. He wants us to enjoy each other. And so I've called my sermon this morning, Click versus Click. Click versus click. So the first click is when you click with someone. You know, when you talk to somebody and you just feel like, oh, I just get them. Like, we just enjoy each other instantly. Like, it's a nice feeling, you know. That's to click. The other click is not a good thing. What do people, when people first move to Cape Town, what do they all say? People in Cape Town are so? Clicky. Yes, okay. People in Cape Town are so clicky because that kind of click is when you form a group that is now closed. And so, and all your time, all your free time, all your energy, all your capacity is only given to those people. And if there's other people that are coming in to the church or to wherever you are, they don't feel like they can get into that group. They don't feel like there's capacity. You don't have the capacity to love anyone else other than that group. And so we don't want that either. So it's click, but we do want you to find people that you click with, but we don't want you to make a click. Okay, so I'm wanting to hold those two in tension as we talk about this because I think it can easily go over the other side. And Christians should be the friendliest people. Yeah. Like, nobody should walk in here and not feel like people are available to them or present with them. We don't want to see closed backs to where you're just connecting with your closest friend and everybody else has kind of been left to fend for themselves. You find your people, I've got my people. That's not what we're talking about this morning. We're talking about holding it in tension, okay? So we need to be careful not to confuse our call of belonging with our call to love. We are called to find our people. We are called to belong. We just read it in Scripture. We are meant to belong, but we're also called to love all people. And there's a way that we can do both. There's a way to live a life of love and presence and to lean into prioritized relationships. They're not at odds with each other. We can do them both. And so we want to look today at how can we find our people without being cliquey. Okay, and what better example in Scripture than that of Jesus? Jesus modeled this so well for us. And so I want to look at how Jesus approached friendships and relationships, and I want us to look at how we can model our lives on that as well. And so the first one is that Jesus was open and present with the crowd. Jesus was open and present with the crowd. He loved, he served, he healed, he fed, and he preached and encouraged the people when he was in the crowd. In Matthew 14, verse 14, It says, Jesus saw the huge crowd as he stepped from the boat, and he had compassion on them, and he healed the sick. When Jesus was in a crowd, he was present there. He noticed the people that were around him, and he looked for opportunities to heal, to help, to serve, to love on them. I think it's in Mark 12, where Jesus talks about the two greatest commandments, and it's to love God and to love people. And he says you need to love God with all your heart, and then you need to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And when he was asked, okay, but then who's our neighbor? Like, who do we have to love? He actually told a story of an enemy loving his enemy. Not of best friends loving each other, but of loving those that are different to you, loving those that are not a part of your inner circle. And that word hospitality actually means the love of the stranger. And that's the kind of love that Jesus is saying. We need to love the stranger. We need to look for opportunities. And we need to love the people where we are. And so where is the crowd? The crowd is where you find yourself every day, at work. That's your crowd. Who is around you at work? Your colleagues, your bosses, who is around you that you can be present with, where you're maybe not just focused on getting through the day, but you're actually noticing, hey, that person looks a bit sad today, or you're praying for the people at your work so that when you go there, you can share an encouragement with one of them. At school, that's your crowd. Okay, who's in your class? Who's your teachers that are around you? That's your crowd. That's where we need to be present and notice the people around us. If you're doing drop-offs for kids, or you're going to watch sports matches and you're standing on the side of the field, who's around you? Who are the other parents that are there? That's your crowd. Are we present? Can we just smile at people? Can we notice people? Are we friendly? Okay? That's your crowd. Jesus looked for opportunities. There's a story of Zacchaeus, which is found in Luke 19, where it says Jesus was passing through Jericho. So he wasn't even like stopping to do something. He was passing through, and yet there was this crowd of people around him, following him, maybe bringing people to be healed or wanting just to see what's Jesus going to do. And there was this short little guy that climbed up a tree to try to see Jesus, and Jesus stops, and he looks up and he calls him by name, and he says, Zacchaeus, I'm going to come have lunch with you today. Now, please don't invite yourself around for lunch to people today, okay? Only Jesus can do that. You can invite people to your house, though, okay? But Jesus is cool like that. He just invites himself to go to Zacchaeus' house and have some lunch. And Zacchaeus' whole life is changed. He ends up repenting and saying, I'm going to give back half of what I've stole, and I'm going to make things right. And his whole life is changed because of a moment in a crowd. And so I want to encourage you that maybe there's moments in a crowd where God's placed you in those places, and there's somebody there that maybe isn't going to be your best friend for life, but maybe there's a moment that you can influence and love on somebody and have a connection that maybe changes their lives forever. So let's be present and open to people in the crowd. I've recently joined a mom's running group that one of the moms from school just started a WhatsApp group called Moms on the Run, and we're just inviting anybody that runs to come and join the group, and then we let them know when we go run. And it's not because I need best friends. Like I have a lot of friends and people that are close to me in my life, but I love Jesus, I love running, and I love people. So it's an incredible opportunity just to meet new people and connect with people. And it's been so fulfilling for me, actually. I love meeting new people. And so then you've got an hour or an hour and a half run where you've got opportunity through huffs and puffs to kind of just chat to somebody, get to know them, and look for opportunities to just share life or encourage or just listen to somebody. And that's my crowd at the moment. It's like, okay, who can I connect with today in running group? Let's look for opportunities to just love, to love people, and let's follow Jesus' example, because Jesus was open and present in the crowd. And even on a Sunday morning, guys, this can be the crowd. So when you walk out of here today and you in the coffee queue, or you maybe standing around here, look for somebody else to greet. Look for somebody just to ask, hey, I don't think we've met. What's your name? What do you do? And just connect with somebody. Let's not let anybody walk through these doors and leave again without being spoken to or connected to, or just having met somebody else. Okay, and then secondly, so Jesus is open and present in the crowd, and then secondly, Jesus chose his close group of friends. He chose them. So he had lots of disciples. He had the big crowd. Then he had a big group of disciples that were following him more closely and learning from him and growing from him. But in Matthew 3, verse 13 to 19, we see Jesus went up on a mountainside and called to him those he wanted, and they came to him. He appointed 12 that they might be with him, and that he might send them out to preach and to have authority to drive out demons. And then it goes on to say these were the 12, and he goes through the 12 names, and these are the disciples we know from the Gospels. But Jesus chose them. He didn't let them choose him. He was intentional about who he wanted in that group, because they were the ones that were going to be with him all the time. They were going to be walking with him day in, day out. They were going to be staying together. They were going to be eating together. They were going to be doing ministry together. And so he chooses the 12 that he wants to be close to him. And I want to encourage you today, or challenge you maybe, that don't let your friends choose you. You choose your friends. Because the crowd are whoever you're around. You don't choose the crowd. The crowd is there, and you show up for the crowd. You're available. You're open to all types of people. Okay? Jesus often had dinner with sinners. The Pharisees were horrified by the kinds of people that Jesus would allow his time to, who he would allow to communicate with and to be around. And they were but Jesus was there to minister to him. But when he chose the 12, he chose them. And it was intentional. And I love that how in that 12, there was so much diversity. It wasn't all people that spoke and were exactly the same. They were different. I mean, you had the zealot who was like, let's take over Rome and let's conquer, and then you had Matthew who worked for Rome and benefited from Rome, and I'm sure there must have been different views in that group. Then you had Thomas who was held back and maybe not as confident, and they called him Doubting Thomas, But then you had Peter, who I'm very sure had ADHD, because when you read the scriptures, there was no impulse control. He would just do things. I mean, he's like, walk on water, sure. Oh, flip, I'm walking on water. I'm going to drown. He just did things, And I'm sure there must have been some clashes in there. They didn't think the same. They weren't all the same. And so I think in choosing our friends, we need to be careful not to create a bit of an echo chamber, where everybody thinks and acts the same as you, and so you think that's the only way you can think in life. There's different views, there's different opinions, there's different ways that people have brought up. Include different people in your group when you're looking for who's going to be a part of your close friends. For us, this is quite an important topic because our youngest child is adopted, and so I'm very aware that I want to have people in my friendship group that look like him, where he can look at our friends and know that there's somebody that looks like him. That's just really important to me. And so we've been quite intentional with trying to find couples that we can include in our friendship group, where he wouldn't feel like, oh, no one in the friendship group looks like me, no one in my family looks like me, there's a problem there. You want him to not feel like that. And so we've been quite intentional, but it hasn't been easy. I've been surprised at how hard it actually is, because we are so used to just connecting with people that are exactly like us. We're so used to connecting with people that think the same, that were brought up the same, that eat the same types of foods, that have the same sort of history as us, because it's easy. But it doesn't necessarily, maybe it shouldn't be easy. like in building. Maybe we need to put a bit of effort in to go past to actually push into relationships that are diverse. And so I had a mom around of one of the friends of Luca's. His name's actually also Luca. And we had a tea while the kids played, and it was awkward. Like, you know when you've asked all the questions, and then you're like kind of sitting and your mind is like, okay, what else can I ask? What else are we going to talk about? And the panic is starting, and you're not quite sure what to say. And afterwards, I was exhausted. Like, when they left, I was like, oh my word, that was a lot of hard work. Like, it wasn't natural, because we were very different. But then I found out she runs. And now she's on the running group with me, and now we run together and we gym together, and there's different conversation that's coming much more easily because we found something that we click on. We have something in common. And so I could have just stopped it there and been like, okay, well, that didn't work. Let's try somebody else. But sometimes you just need to push a little bit further with people. You need to try again. And the first time maybe it won't be as easy. The second time, maybe we'll still feel a little bit awkward. But as you keep pushing it, as you keep investing in people and bringing people into your lives, it gets easier. And I think you might be surprised by the people that end up being your closest friends. I think if you're open and you're listening to people's stories and you're sharing your stories, I think you could make some really good friends that you would be surprised at who it ends up being. So let's be open in choosing our friends, but let's be intentional about choosing people and investing in people that can be in our group of friends. A good question to ask after you've been with your friends, is to ask, how do I feel? So if you come home from a night out with some friends, ask yourself, how do I feel? Am I feeling negative and down? Because, maybe you're around friends that are always negative about the country or negative about this, and you go home and you're constantly feeling negative. Then hey, maybe that should be the crowd. And maybe I need to invest in some people that are life-giving, that are going to speak life. And then you also need to be that kind of person and that kind of friend, okay? But I want to encourage you that find your friends in the family of God, those friends that are going to be with you all the time. You want to choose people based on shared values. Not just because, those are the people I happen to be around at work, so those are my friends. Or, those are the people that happen to be around at school, so those are my friends. Or those are the other moms of, like, our kids are all friends, so now we're friends. No, we choose our friends. The people that are going to be closest to us matter, because show me your friends and I'll show you your future. You become like your friends. They're the ones that shape you and mold you. And so you want to be intentional about choosing friends that are life-giving, that are going to build and help you to become more like Jesus. So Jesus was open and present with the crowd, and then Jesus chose his close group of friends. And then thirdly, Jesus had an inner circle. When we read the scriptures, we see that there were 3 disciples that were closer to Jesus than the other 12. In Mark 5, verse 37, it says, "Then Jesus stopped the crowd and wouldn't let anyone go with him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James." And this is when he healed, I think it was Jairus' daughter, and he took them in, but he didn't let any of the other disciples in. And then in Matthew 17, verse 1 to 3, it says, 6 days later, Jesus took Peter and the 2 brothers, James and John, and led them up a high mountain to be alone. As the men watched, Jesus' appearance was transformed so that his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as light. Suddenly, Moses and Elijah appeared and began talking with Jesus. Now imagine, you're part of this 12 disciples, but Jesus keeps taking 3 with him on special assignments. And then, it's Peter, guys. Imagine, you remember, no filter? Imagine what he was like when they came off the mountain. And he was like, guys, Jesus changed in front of us. And we got to meet Elijah. We got to meet Moses. I know they're dead, but they were there in the flesh. And we got to meet them. It was just the best experience. How do you think the other disciples felt? They were like, whatever, Peter. It's okay. Like, we know you're special. It wouldn't have been easy, but yet Jesus chose to keep these three closer than the others. And Jesus was unapologetic about investing in them in a special way. And in Matthew 26, verse 37 to 38, you see Jesus again with these three, and this time it's in the Garden of Gethsemane, and it's the night where he actually says his soul is in anguish because he knows what's coming, and he's struggling with it, and he wants to go and pray and be, but he doesn't want to be alone, and so who does he bring with? Peter, James, and John. And they come with, and then he says to them, like, I need your help. I need you to sit and watch and pray with me. And what do? They fall asleep. So sometimes our friends let us down. But he brought with him those that were closest to him in his time of need to help him, to support him. And so we need to be open to the crowd. But then we need our friends that we invest in that are close to us. But then we need those that have our back as well. We need our inner circle, our closest friends that are going to help us in our time of need, where we can be a support to them when they need help, where they can be a support to us when we need help, and where we can confess our sin, the way they can help us to withstand temptation, where we're bringing things into the light and saying, I'm struggling with this, I need help. And they can be there. But those kind of friendships don't just happen. Those friendships take a lot of time over a lot of years of intentionally being more and more vulnerable with people, allowing people into your lives to see what's inside and not just on the outside. And Jesus modeled to show us that it's okay to prioritize certain friendships. I've always struggled with this. I feel bad when I exclude people, so I'm always trying to invite everyone to everything. But you end up realizing that there's no one that's really that close because everything is always in a big group. It's okay to invest intentionally in a couple of people so that you can build into those relationships. But it's only a problem when that becomes a clique and you're closed off to everyone else. It's all about those three people or those three, and you guys do everything together and you don't have any other relationships. That's when it becomes a problem. But you need those relationships, and it's good to invest in those relationships. But then when you're in the crowd, you're open and you're available to people, and you're finding ways to connect with different people and get people connected to other people. And then you've got your bigger group of friends that you're inviting to braais and going out for coffees with. But then you've got your close friends that are there to support you. And I think looking at Jesus' model, it shows us that the vision is to have all three. But this morning, I want to encourage you to look at those three areas. Because if we're trying to invest in everything, we're always going to feel like we're lacking somewhere, So my encouragement to you is to look at those three areas. Look at the crowd, being open and available, the groups of friends, and then the inner three. Which area needs the most attention in your life at the moment? Maybe even just take a moment. You can close your eyes if you want. Our keyboardist can come up. Take a moment and think, and let's ask God, God, show me, am I closed off to the crowd? Am I so focused on my friends, and I've got these great friendship groups that I'm actually not available to the people that you're wanting me to influence and share love with? Or God, are my friendship groups, are my friends just my friends because they happen to be around me? Or have I actually intentionally chosen friends that are going to be friends of my future, friends that are going to breathe life into me? Or maybe you have those friends and the area you need to give attention to is the inner circle. Thinking, I don't actually have anyone that I can be vulnerable with. I don't have anybody that I would phone if something really hectic happened. I can't think of a name that I would phone. That I would feel comfortable, where I would feel like they would be okay with me pouring my heart out. Or I don't feel like there's anybody that would actually pray for me. And remember, the best place to start is by being that kind of friend and being vulnerable. If we're not being those friends, we can't expect those friends in our lives.